And welcome back to the DC Shoot Off podcast. We're back for episode 7, and this is time to meet the sponsors. We've got Kelly from Canon.
Hi, everyone.
We've got Brian from iKan.
Thank you for inviting us.
And of course, you've got me, your host, Sam Morse, and our co-host, Tyler Prince.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And of course, remember, it's all play. So, of course, we can't start this episode without mentioning that in a couple of weeks, we've got the DC Video Shoot-Off, the workshop itself that this podcast is named after. That's going to be August 22nd through 25th at the Hilton Garden Inn, Arlington Courthouse. There are still a few slots open, but they are filling up quickly. Last I heard, I think we've got 25 students or something along those lines. And I think there have been a few signups since then. So if you haven't signed up, sign up. We may run out of seats this year.
Yep, and if you don't know where to register, you can go to the dcvideoshootoff.org.
Yes. And if for some reason you can't swing it financially or your unit isn't covering your cost, reach out to us. We do sometimes do some scholarships. I know we actually just gave one out yesterday, so reach out to us. We might be able to work with you. Okay, so like we mentioned, we've got Kelly from Canon and Brian from iKan, and we weren't able to get Adobe on such a short notice, but those three companies are our longest running sponsors for the workshop. So we wanted to make sure that we give each of them some time to talk about their new products, talk about what they might be bringing to the workshop, and what surprises they might have in store for us. So let's start with you, Kelly. How long have you yourself been with the workshop?
Last year was my first. So I work this workshop with my coworker, Michael Cutler, and he's been doing it for a number of years, and he brought me on last year for the first time. And I really liked it, and I told him so, and so he invited me again this year to work with them. So that's exciting, and yeah, so it's still relatively new to me, but it's a great one.
Fantastic. So do you know how long Canon's been with the workshop? I think it's from the beginning.
I think it's from the beginning. I think it's been from, if I remember correctly, I think it's from the beginning. I know it's been a number of years because just the way that Cutler talked about it with me, and that he knows everybody. So you get there and, everybody's, just, hugging, and it's like a family reunion. So it's, I don't know how many years. I'd have to get back to you on that exactly, but I know it's been a number of them, and that we're definitely in it, and we love supporting this event.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And Brian, you yourself have been with us since the beginning, correct?
I know I started with iKan in 2012. And,
okay.
And I know my first workshop, I think it was 2014 or 2015. I was telling Kelly that Glenn Stewart from Dinfos it said, my wife is involved in this program that you should get involved with. And that's how I met Maureen and how it all got started. And I used to live in Pennsylvania and drive all the gear right over from my storage unit. And now I'm in Houston, so I'll be shipping everything very soon.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely appreciate you coming out each year. I haven't been with the video shoot off since the beginning, so I don't always remember the inception, but I know you've been a longstanding supporter of the workshop. Any particular memories that stand out? Anything odd, funny, memorable?
I can say that there was, if you look at the DC Video Shoot-Off gallery, there's an image of a iKan bottle opener being used to get a gimbal to work. People have MacGyvered the situation, I always figure out how to get things running. And that was, someone took some of our swag, which is the church key, and fixed a gimbal on the spot. But there's just the people that I meet from all branches of service, young, old, new, people getting into video that were primarily photo oriented, and seeing people want to grow, learn, and experience more of that, to me, inspires me to want to learn and grow and do more.
It does. And fun fact, I still have an iKan keychain on my my keys to this day, and I use it regularly to tighten screws, undo screws, mostly switching out quick release plates, but it still gets used, and I still am thankful to have that keychain. That's probably the most useful piece of swag I've ever gotten from any company.
Is that the one that's stainless steel or black?
It's stainless steel. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one opens bottles better, but we had one that looked like a shiv that we had to discontinue. But yeah, that key tool, tie down tool, bottle opener, unfortunately gets used mostly for me for beer bottles. But yes, they are. And anyone that was there last year, they got the iKan Hydro Flask, and I'll be bringing lots of swag this year as well.
Awesome. I've been using that Hydro Flask pretty regularly lately. I was surprised at how well it keeps things cold and hot.
That's because it's from the exact same factory as Hydro Flask.
Nice. Very cool. Kelly, were there any particular standout memories from you from last year? I know you haven't been with the workshop as long, but
for me, overall, because we were in the room, and we were able to see all of the speakers, and then at the end, the final videos that the groups came out with, and I love that. I love being there from the beginning to the end, and just seeing like the bow tie at the end of everything that they came up with, how artistic and interesting, and just seeing how everything worked out and how their minds worked. And then I found it really inspiring, and I loved being able to see the speakers throughout the whole thing too. So for me, it was, I can't think of one specific thing, but my overall feeling of it was just being very inspired by all of it, and just enjoying talking to everybody, and being able to geek out a little bit over, what cameras and what lenses fit.
Only a little bit.
Yeah, it's always fun to do, to geek out with other geeks, and it's just and it felt good. It was a feel good event where everybody was just kind, polite, and just, I found it very inspiring.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great workshop, and it's got an interesting character. Of course, we've got our mascot Rexy. Did you know about Rexy going into it?
No, no, but I loved it.
I think our live stream had a few extreme close-ups of Rexy.
Oh yeah, I know we were having fun with it on the live stream. I might have to pull a couple clips, but yeah, for those who don't know, we have our mascot is a blow-up Rexy, or a T-Rex costume, and it always elicits some laughter.
Oh, there it is.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sam drew that
shirt. So speaking of geeking out on tech, I know Canon's had some new announcements lately, and you guys are bringing some really cool stuff. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're bringing, maybe some of the new announcements?
Yeah. So what we're bringing, we'll have a choice of two different cameras, the R5C and the C70, and I'm also going to be speaking for a little while on site there at the event, so I'll be able to talk to you a little bit about the differences and everything. But all in all, like there's no right choice. They're both really good, so you have to just kind of figure out which one feels good and which one fits your situation better. But the R5C, tied up in a nice little bow, it's full frame. If you are both a still shooter and cinema video shooter, it's a hybrid, so it'd be pretty much perfect for you. It has the RF mount, so it fits our newest lenses. The autofocusing system is insane. It takes both SD and CF Express cards. It has an internal cooling fan, so you don't have to worry about overheating like you do on some of the other just mirrorless like still cameras that happen to shoot video kind of thing. This is definitely a video and still camera. We also have
if I remember right, it's not just a hybrid camera. Like when you flip that switch from photo to video, it completely transforms into a video-centric camera. It starts calling shutter speed, shutter angle. It really just completely changes the control layout and everything to turn it into a dedicated video camera. So it's not like a hybrid where it kind of does both. No, it does photo really well and it does video really well.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it does have the switch, and when you switch it, yeah, it changes the verbal ways, the verbal cues of calling certain things like shutter angle and things like that. And yeah, you switch it. It's a cinema camera. You switch it over to camera, and it's a still camera, 45 megapixel still camera, full frame. So it is a beast. It's a great little camera. It's also, smaller in size. So it's just, you won't draw too much attention to yourself, which is nice. It's approved for Netflix. So if that's something that you were looking at in the future, how Netflix only approves certain cameras to be used for whatever they want to show. That's one of them. What I like also about it, it has a locked sensor inside of it. So if you wanted to use it as like a car mount or drone footage, it works really well in situations like that.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's locked more than a lot of other mirrorless cameras. So it does work well in those situations. It's funny because depending on who you speak to, if I speak to a photographer about mounting it on a car or something, they're like, oh no, it's way too expensive for that. But then if I talk to a cinematographer for it, mounting it on a car, they're like, oh yeah, go for it. Like people's price ranges in their heads are a little different depending on who you talk to. But yes, for drone footage and mounting it on a car, that the sensor's nicely locked inside of there. So we have the R5C, but then we also have the C700, which is the super 35 millimeter.
The C70?
C70, yes, thank you. C7.
Yeah, I was talking about the C700 before. It's my fault.
C70. And that is a great, I love this camera. If you aren't into, the only negative aspect of it is if you're also a still shooter. So then you would just need two different cameras. I guess it depends. It's not even a negative. But the C70 has everything built into it. So it has the excellent battery life. The battery lasts a long time. It has the ND filters that are built in up to 10 stops, which I really specifically like, because then it's just, for like shoots where you just need an ND filter, they're right there. You don't have to put in an adapter or a filter onto the lens, something like that. It shoots on SD cards, so everything can shoot raw on an inexpensive SD card, which is great. 4K up to 120p. Good price range. It's also the RF mount, so it's using the newest sensors. Great autofocusing system and face focusing, eye focusing.
It's even got the XLRs built into the body, which normally a camera that size, if you do get NDs, you're not going to get 10 stops of ND.
Yes.
But even if you get XLR, it's going to be in a top handle that adds bulk and such. So if you're trying to fly it on a gimbal or something like that, granted it's the mini XLR, but
it is.
The fact that the XLRs are on the body itself is kind of special.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that it's just all there in the body, you don't have too much to add on to it unless you really want to, depending on your situation. But for some of the other setups, if you need the XLR, you got to put the handset on, or there's other things that you add into it. And then after a while, either the price ends up being kind of similar or the size is definitely similar. So it depends on, what you're looking for and what you're using it, what you're already using too in your gear. So if you were to use both of them, the C70 and the R5C, they do color match well together. So in post, they kind of, the look of it, the nice skin tones, things like that. So we have those two cameras on site to use. And both Cutler and I requested a bunch of different lenses. And we went all the way to like some of our highest L series glass, the prettiest, like most lovely lenses, because they're just fun to use. Who doesn't want to use them? They're it's like
Absolutely.
fun. They're lovely. But I also added in some sleepers, and that's what I call them, because there's some lenses that are, personally, if I'm out shooting in the street or run and gun, or I'm in a hurry, sometimes I like just a small lens. It depends on the situation, but we have some smaller, inexpensive lenses that are sharp. And I wanted to have those available to add to the setup. Somebody's to rent it out, because they're really nice. The motor in them's quiet for video. I just want to add a variety for everybody to choose from.
You mentioned the motor's really quiet. That's kind of one of the big advantages of the RF lenses versus the older EF glass. Is the older EF glass is really made only for stills. The motors are kind of loud. They kind of step and they're not smooth with their focus and such. Those RF lenses really are made for both hybrid shooters, where they're great for stills, but they also have that nice smooth focusing mechanism. They're nice and quiet, and some of the newer lenses are pretty incredible. Canon's been putting wider apertures than the industry expects in some pretty what would be normally a standard lens, like the 28-70. I know we've got a couple of those where I work. It's an f2.0, where pretty much everybody else is in that kind of zoom range is making it a 2.8.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite lenses. It's virtually perfect in my view. Like, it is beautiful, and we'll have those there, by the way.
Awesome. As
a choice, we'll have the 28-70s, 24-70s. We'll also have the brand new 24-105s, f2.8. I have one right here.
Yeah, pretty much every other company, it's a 24-105 is an f4 lens, which I personally have a 24-7 or 24-105 f4, and I love the versatility, but I don't always love the limited aperture. But a 2.8 is pretty cool.
The 24-105 f4 was always one of my favorite lenses, and even though it's an f4, it has the IS. I didn't care. I just loved it, and then came out with the 2.8, and I'm like, it's very, very pretty.
Sounds like the ultimate interview lens.
Yeah, definitely. And on top of that, Canon is making a motorized mechanism for the zoom, if I'm not mistaken, for power zoom. Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have one to be able to work with myself just yet, but yes, there's some screws in the side of it, so it's ready. It's ready for it. But I just haven't been able to work with it. I have seen some information on it and talked to some other people, and it sounds like it's going to be really cool. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But
me too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. In terms of other lenses, we'll also have the 85 1.2, but also the 85 f2, which is, it says macro in the name because it has a closer focusing distance. It's not a 1-to-1 macro, but it's close enough to be able to put macro in the name. So it's very light and inexpensive. And then we'll also have, we threw in some 100 to 500s for fun. That's a really fun lens. And if you need that telephoto, if you want to be able to take that background and blur it out against a subject that's really, and also not being their face, that could come in really handy. And then we have some cine lenses that we're bringing, if anybody wanted to play with those. So there's all sorts of different choices and different lenses. And we have a lens for pretty much every situation that I can think of for that event. And I think it'll be cool. And I'll be bringing in a few of my own samples. I couldn't get a bunch of them from Canon Professional Services for loan yet because they're just too new. But I do have the new RF35 1.4, so I'm going to bring that. And I'll also bring, I mentioned, is this it? Yep, the R5 Mark II. So I'll have that.
It's been turning a lot of heads lately.
Yeah. It's going to be anything in the R series, all the way from the original DSLR R. Like it went, and then the the 5D, sorry. So the 5D and the 555, and then the R5 Mark II. I know they're technically not related because it goes DSLR to mirrorless, but in my head, it's kind of that same line. It's that full frame, special high-end camera. It's not an EOS 1 body, so for sports or like top of the line, but it's always that one step right below it.
It's the spiritual successor to the 5D.
It always has the high megapixel, and it kills you a little bit in terms of cards and storage. So you got to make sure you have storage for it. But I want personally, even though I don't necessarily need it, my past comes from printing and wide format printing. So because of that, I want the biggest file I can get. And I think of it in terms of film, just where further back, that dates me. But in terms of film, when you scan it in, you wanted that highest scan possible so that you can make the biggest print possible so you can crop in whatever's needed. I like that big file. So I digress.
Trust me, I get the large film.
Right? It's that you just want it. And it was the best. And then when you go to the full frame, large megapixel camera, and then you go from the R5 and then the R5 Mark II with the 45 megapixel, that speaks to me. So this is going to be my new baby. And I will have that there with me for anybody if they want to play with it or, mess around, take a look at it.
That's cool. Yeah, Canon's been putting some interesting things out there lately, especially all the new lenses and things. Can't wait to play with some of the new products. For the Cine glass, is it all the new RF mount Cine glass, or are you bringing any PL?
It's a mix, I believe.
Mix, okay.
Yeah, I think it's mostly RF, though, to be honest, because we have the 50, the 35, the 24, and the 14. I was not able to get the 85, unfortunately. So I believe it's a mix. I can take a look and let you know for sure in a little bit.
Cool. Very cool. So, Brian, what kind of goodies are you bringing?
Right. So one of the things that I want to talk about and that I'm going to bring is something that's new for iKan in lighting. It's something that we have patents pending. It is the ability to take a light, instead of having a power supply and then DMX cables, you're able to have a light with one cable, and that allows you to power and control the lights. So I'm, really excited to be able to bring this, because what does this mean, as far as a 24-hour film festival or the shoot-off? How does this help? Imagine you don't have power supplies, you don't have pregnant stakes, you have one switch and you just run Cat 5 cable, and you're able to, right now I'm controlling these with open source software and a MIDI fader board, like for a DAW, but you're able to just have lights in the field. You have one box, and then Cat 6 cable, and that's it. And it's very quick to set up, and it's very easy to configure and use. And I'm using a combination of these lights right now, and it allows me to do anything in a much simpler way than regular DMX. So this is DMX over ArtNet or SACN, and I'm using a Netgear switch, and some of the lights pull 85 watts, some 60 watts, some 50 watts, and we're putting together kits I have a Fresnel, I have a 1x1 panel, and I have a low profile panel. So I'm going to bring some kits with these lights, a couple switches and stands, so teams can use these. And I'm also going to bring the green screen that's behind me as well. So anyone that wants to, do something quick, and again, we'll have to talk to the organizers where this can be used, but this is an example of a product we sell I also have it with a blue background, a white background. It's obviously, it's just, something that's easy to set up, quick and portable. And that's the PoE lighting, I think, is what, for us, the new direction we've been going in.
Yeah, I remember checking those out at NAB and was really impressed with kind of the brightness and such, because the NAB Las Vegas, the conference center that it is hosted at, is a fairly brightly lit conference center, and you were still able to get overpower that lighting and actually get a nice setup using just those lights. You used quite a few of those, but using a bunch of them also gave you nice soft light as well. I think it's interesting too that you have that PoE light. For those who are just listening, the PoE light is kind of I think it was a 1x1 panel you showed.
The one that I was showing here is a 1x1, but I also, like I said, I have a small Fresnel, and I have a low profile. We call it an LBX8 PoE, and I have a what's called an LBF60. I'm going to share a screen with you now so you can kind of see what that looks like. If you remember any of our run and gun lights, we had a light that was called the SW50, and we took that chassis and we reimagined the I'm going to share a screen with you right now. And so this is the light that you're seeing when I was I'm using that as a key light and a backlight right now. So we have people are putting together studios. You don't need to bring an electrician, you don't need to get permits. So all the things that normally were necessary for any kind of studio build are now all you need to do is pick the right switch, and you can run Cat 6 cable anywhere because it's low voltage.
Yeah, and I was the thing I was pointing out with the 1x1 panel that you showed is it was light enough that you were able to mount it on a scissor clip to a drop ceiling.
That is correct.
And there's no power supply needed. You can have the whole unit just hanging by a scissor clip, and then Cat 5 you can run that. I want to say 200 feet.
It's 100 meters before you need to extend it. Yeah, so this is what we've been developing, and we're in the process of developing more fixtures that use this. Right now, the limitation is to 95 watts. We actually duck the fixture down so it doesn't spike. We found that if you come close to the limit of each port on a switch, it cut it out. So we duck it down to 85. So the regular light, the LBX10 is 90 watts. This one is 85. And they're just really easy to configure, and you can log into the IP address and configure the light. So this has been a game changer for us, for our customers, and I have TV studios that are looking to convert from hot lights right to PoE, because what they have in the ceiling is the old copper, I'm going to stop sharing now. They have the old copper, the old rails, all the stage pin. They would need to bring an electrician to put in boxes and everything, but if they go to PoE, none of that's necessary. They just need to spec the right switch. And we're doing demos right now and testing for a couple call letter TV stations and we have a lot of TV stations that use LBX10s, but now with PoE, this opens up a new door for them.
That's cool. Yeah, and I remember we were talking about the use case on the military side, or even government in general. If you're trying to do lighting in a controlled area where you're not able to have Bluetooth, you're not able to have Wi-Fi, you're not able to have CRMX, and DMX can be a little bit of a hassle to set up. But now you've got a lightweight lighting kit that you can hang from the drop ceilings, which pretty much every secure area I've been in, it's drop ceilings, and do a complete lighting setup with remote control, just running a whole bunch of Ethernet cables, and that's a really attractive option.
Yeah, Cat 6 cable per foot is much less, and it's all home run as opposed to daisy chain. And if you ever set up a big DMX studio, if something goes wrong, you never know where it is because you have a daisy chain. Where
right, it's like the old Christmas lights. If one light goes out, they all go out.
Right. So in this case, diagnosing problems with DMX could be really cumbersome, but with ArtNet and Cat 6 or SACN over Cat 6, it's easy. Every light has its own cable, so it's very easy to fix, diagnose, and we have customers, again, you figure out the right switch, the right budget for the watts you need, and you're able to get redundant power supplies and switches with you can have a whole backup switch, and again, it's really been a game changer for our customers, not just because of the permitting and all that. The time to build a studio, now knowing you only need to put a 20 amp circuit to power your switch, it saves on a lot of costs and building time.
Very cool. So before we started recording, you were telling me a little bit about this motorized pedestal behind you.
Yeah, so
let me about that.
So this is something we've been working on. We showed it at NAB and Infocom, and this will be in stock and shipping soon. And imagine you have a PTZ camera and you have it on stage, and you have someone, whether you need to get that above and beyond, there's a lot of things. So this is, right now this is set up for a PTZ camera. We also have a system, they'll have a 61-pound head. So this would replace a regular pedestal. So it's offered in right now two configurations. In the next configuration, we'll talk to Visca, which means I'll be able to control it with my PTZ controller. And that would allow me to control the camera and the pedestal simultaneously, and then the next step of that will be to send out free D data, free as in FREE-D for VR production. So that would give the data to the software where the camera's living in real time.
It's very helpful. Now, you switched to a PTZ, it looked like, for a moment there. Was that tracking you automatically, or are you?
Yes, and that's another product we're working on that's in the works. Cool. That is tracking me, and right now it moves very fast, and because I'm 3 feet away from it. If you think I was 20 feet away, it would be a much smoother. But this is something, I have this at my desk and I'm working with it because I work with our product managers and I test the products as they come to development and find, I try to find everything. I try to break it. Right. I try to find where that's, they give things to me not to break it, but to find what are the strengths and the weaknesses. So that's, this is all, sitting at, I changed, you saw my view before. I have a lot going on at my desk. So, and this is in my office in Houston that I'm talking to you now. So the other thing that's really exciting that I have behind me that I have it up and running, and I was hoping I could show you footage from this as well. This is something that we showed at NAB. It is a tracking tripod head, and I'm going to share my screen with you again real briefly. And let me go to this one. Here we go. So this is the EG25 XR Pro, and this is a head that transmits pan, tilt, focus, and zoom data to your software using FreeD. Something we worked on with Canon actually is we have a cable that goes right from the box to the lens, so you don't need these external encoders. I have external encoders on the system by me, but so this system sends all that information. So when you're using a green screen or a video wall, everything changes perspective in real time. So you have that parallax view, not like right now you're looking at me on a green screen and I'm using an Ultimat, which is helping a lot. But having that ability to do tracking in the system, so this is a 61-pound tripod head, and right now you see the box, and I have a cable going to the head, a cable for focus, and a cable for zoom. And right now I put some external motors on it, and this is how we can create, again, that movement in real time with the software. So this is the EG25XR Pro. This system we have in stock and we're shipping. This one has a 61.7 pound payload, and we have a system that we're working on that will also have a lower payload, and then with a pedestal system on a dolly that will send tracking for the height and for the horizontal axis simultaneously. So those are things we were working on. So it's mostly, we've gone from gimbals, went from iPhone gimbals to mirrorless gimbals to DSLR gimbals to compact camera. Now we're in a whole different stratosphere here at iKan with the, product for VR for broadcast studios. And the last thing I want to show, just what's new and exciting, are teleprompters. Teleprompters aren't exciting or sexy, but they're in every studio, and they're incredibly important. And most time you're watching TV, you're watching someone reading off a teleprompter.
I'm actually using one right now.
Yeah, well,
I saw a tip from a YouTuber that they use a teleprompter with a screen, and they put their Teams or Zoom calls on that, and that lets them look straight into the barrel of the lens. And it even if you're not using it for the text side of teleprompters, it can be really helpful for live streaming and things like that.
So we have a model we built for that. That's called the PT4500W. And what's the difference between this and our regular 15-inch system? That it's a widescreen monitor, and that'll allow you to get your full 1080p screen from your laptop or your desktop. So when you're doing Zoom or Teams or Riverside, you're going to see everyone in the same aspect ratio that you would normally see them. And we're going to release this in a 19-inch version, and right now it's available as a 15-inch, and you notice the green light there. Teleprompters live in usually a broadcast situation, so this one has tally, and it tells you which camera is live. So that's also available in a talent monitor. So this is something that we've built into our monitors. You kind of say, front-mounted, bezel-mounted tally in the front or on the top, depending if it's used as a talent monitor or a regular prompter monitor.
That's awesome.
Those are the kind of things we've been working on, and just the way these systems are built and the cameras that they can accommodate. You can kind of see here in this GIF all the different plates that come with our teleprompters. So regardless if they're using a C70 or a C700, there's a plate to accommodate that. And something we did in our systems in general, I want to go back one slide. We've changed the hood on this model. It'll accommodate the largest Canon box lens in the shroud. That's something we changed as well. So that entire shroud is much larger. Before, you couldn't get a box lens in, and now that will take. We partner with Canon. We test products, and we have a servo cable for the CineZoom servo zooms, and again, we have a cable that talks to the serial port on the ENG lenses for VR, and right now we have a box lens from Canon in the building that we use to develop the shroud for the lens hood.
That's cool.
So that is something that's so between PoE lighting, the products for VR, and our teleprompter line, that's what's new and exciting at iKan.
Very cool.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler, for lightening the moment.
Yeah, the PoE, it's becoming, for those who aren't familiar with the term PoE, that's power over Ethernet. It's a pretty cool technology because you're just sending one cable that gives you power, it gives you control, it often includes video signals and things like that. There's a lot of different companies that are starting to use that these days. And it really does simplify your use. I know I run audio for our live broadcast a lot, and we use my favorite analog to digital encoders are Neutrik boxes that they run completely off of PoE, and I can control them. I can adjust volume. I can turn phantom power on and off, and the whole thing is powered. And I can do that from the audio booth inside our broadcast truck. And I'm controlling all of that, and it's just one single cable, and I can run it a really long distance. I know we did a soccer tournament a couple years ago, and I set up a switch kind of halfway around the court, and I was able to run the rest of it just using Ethernet to and XLR cables, and get a nice stereo mic on the far side of the field where, you know, we didn't have a super loud fan right next to the microphone that was messing up our NAT sound. PoE, it can't be overstated how useful that can be because of how simple it is and how inexpensive the cabling is.
I forgot to mention one new product talking about PoE, and it's something that again, it's a PoE product, and it's sending the video, audio. It encodes and decodes NDI. So this product we showed at NAB. I'm hoping to bring this as well. This is more, I don't know that this will be useful to any of the teams, but it encodes and decodes analog composite, which still used on feature film sets, specific, think IMAX, video tap is still used on huge feature films. And I can tell you they used our monitors still with composite for Dunkirk, to give an example.
Cool.
We work with one of the car rigging companies that, anyway, just to give example, but this is a M19W NDI. This will be released as a talent monitor and as a prompting monitor. And this, I think, will have our first batch in stock in 2 or 3 weeks. So again, PoE, and you're getting the audio and the video in and out, and you can route this as an encoder or a decoder, and you see the buttons on the front. You can choose your inputs right on the monitor or with a GUI, and this is something new and exciting at iKan.
Cool. And it looks like it's PoE++, so higher wattage than regular PoE, but
that's because it's 1,000 nits, so it's going to need
nice and bright.
Yeah, so that's, I think it's like 35, whatever it is, it needs like 35 watts. I forget the exact. What happens if you let's say you put it on a PoE plus switch, but not plus plus, you wouldn't be able to use the full backlight.
Gotcha.
So one thing that we learned is everything is before I set up, I had everything set up on a switch that didn't have the budget I needed, because I have 3 cameras and I have 4 or 5 lights. And what would happen is when I would hit a light and everything, I would lose a camera or I would lose a feed. So but it's just like a new skill set. It's just math. I have to know the maximum wattage usage of each item and prepare for that. But we partner with Netgear. We include Netgear switches in our bundles with our lights, and we're always looking for other ways to put these packages together. So
yeah, and NDI is a cool technology from NewTek, same company that makes the TriCaster. And I've used that quite a bit in some of our live broadcasts. I know we use it in our truck a bit. I've used it on smaller scale things. The cool thing is it's pseudo open source. It's available to a lot of different devices. A lot of different things can use it across a network. And it's basically a way to transport video feeds from one device on a network to another device on a network using no additional hardware, no additional devices or anything. They do make hardware encoders and decoders, but you don't necessarily need them. You can create an NDI signal just by using OBS, Open Broadcast Software, which is free for Mac and PC. And you can you can get the NDI pack for free and send an NDI signal over a network. And so, with a monitor that you don't even need a brick for, you just run Ethernet from a PoE++ router. Now you can send video to it, and you don't need HDMI adapters. You don't need anything like that. That's really cool.
The audio, the video, everything. And it's really, like you said, share that signal, and you can share that on a local area network, and you don't need, once you're in NDI, it's really easy to get the things out the other end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we ran an entire live broadcast last year just using NDI-based PTZs and graphics and all of that. We had a couple of hiccups, but it wasn't bad. We basically ran the entire thing using a couple of laptops and some PTZs. It's pretty cool tech.
Yeah, so we include the license. Our cameras now have the license cooked in. It's included. That's NDI HX2, and we're working on cameras that have HX3 and then full NDI, which is it uses more bandwidth but it's less compressed.
Right. Although the NDI HX, the nice thing about that one is you can run more signals on the same network. I know that the downside of regular NDI, the fully uncompressed NDI, is you really do need to be on a 10 gig Ethernet network, because once you get 2 or 3 streams on there, it does tend to bog it down.
That is correct. So it's infrastructure, and as every new building that's built, they're putting in 10 gig. It's the older buildings that have issues with this.
Yeah, and those networks, even if you're building a network from scratch on site, those networks can help you in other ways too. Being able to share a NAS over that network, and network attached storage. I'm actually planning on building a little mini network for our live stream in a couple of weeks. That way, we've got a NAS, we've got all of our devices are talking to each other, so we can use technologies like BitFocus Companion on the stream decks, so that we can control devices over the network. So
you let me know how many PTZ cameras to bring, and again, I could bring the auto tracking camera and the motorized pedestal, and cool. We can do, again, we'll talk offline, but there's a lot of stuff I could bring just for the live stream.
Interesting. We will have to have that discussion. Very cool. Kelly, I just remember we never really talked about some of the other new announcements from Canon. The R1, the C400.
Yes, and I will talk about those. But first, before I forget, I want to mention that Delkin is supplying SD cards and CF Express Type B cards for the workshop. So for those of you listening or watching and worrying about your cards for borrowing these cameras, we'll have cards there for you to use.
And Delkin makes good stuff.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're hooking us up with those cards to use, so that's really nice. One less thing to worry about.
Right. Absolutely.
So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, so nobody's worried.
And I think I heard Condor Blue is actually supplying cages.
That I don't know.
Yeah, one of our folks is in talks with Condor Blue to supply cages for the R5Cs and the C70s, to provide more mounting options, if people want to mount a monitor or things like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the R1, I'll talk about that first. That is our new flagship body. It is, for those of you that have used the R3 or any EOS 1 series body, very similar to the EOS 1 series. It is, I don't have one here, or else I would hold it up for you. I did get my hands on it recently at a media event, and it is so durable and feels good. It's like, yay, it's just a big, thick, sturdy, weather-resistant body. It's so fast. Let's see, it shoots like 40 frames per second in electronic shutter. It is full frame. It's a 24.2 megapixel back illuminated stacked CMOS sensor. I wanted to make sure that I got that right. That's something new. It's a new CMOS sensor for us. It works together with the newest autofocusing system that we have. That it feels. I always go back to this because I hear it so often. And when I first started using these cameras with the face detect and then the eye detect, it kind of moved and it got better and better. And then now it's to the point where I truly believe that when I'm using these newest cameras, I have like a one-up over anybody else, not just because of that autofocusing system, how quickly it finds your eye and tracks them. And then if it doesn't see the eye, like if I turn my head, it'll get the head. If it can't for some reason see my head, it'll get my body. It is so quick and smooth. It's that alone, like for me, just kind of blew my mind when I was using it. The EVF on the back, actually similar to this one, because the R5 Mark II has similar EVF in the back. So I'm going to hold it up next to the R5. Hopefully you can see the size difference.
Wow.
See? Feels really good when you're using it. It's so crispy clear.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of a nice big viewfinder. Back when I used to shoot Nikon for stills, I actually got the 1.3x and larger with the big eye cup just so that I could see a nice big clear image.
Yes.
So I always appreciate a nice big viewfinder. I also remember seeing and reading about eye tracking, not just tracking the eyes of your subject, but it'll actually track your own eye and use that to pick your autofocus point. Tell me a little bit about that.
Does, and it's crazy. So what you do is you calibrate it to your eye. You go to the menu and you hit eye calibration. And it'll take you through a few different things. It'll have a dot on the screen, and it'll tell you to, hit the button while focusing on the eye or focusing on the dot, and then following it around. And it does this in a few different situations, and then vertical. And you do it in a few different lighting situations too to make it even better. And it will calibrate it, and you have different calibration. You can save multiple ones in there, and it'll calibrate to your eye so that when you're set to that, then we have it set to eye control AF. And as you're looking through the viewfinder and photographing, as you're autofocusing and you move your eye, say I was looking at you, Tyler, and then you, Brian, you'll see the autofocusing point automatically move to where my eye was looking. And it's at first,
that's cool.
I know. And I was like, okay, I really hope this is great. And it is. Because I was worried that it was going to be like if it was just kind of like temperamental or
buggy,
buggy or make me dizzy or something or anything like weird like that. And it didn't. It worked really well. And
now, is that photo only, or does that work in video autofocus
as well? Photo only. That is the one thing. It is photo only. Yes, for now. And
for now.
I mean, you never know. I don't know anything, but you never know.
Right.
But that's the way that for now it's photo only. It's super, super awesome. And then you can also, there's another thing called people priority shooting, where you say you're photographing a soccer game or something. And then there's one specific guy that you want to keep focus on while all the others are running around. Instead of the camera focusing on the closest subject or the camera focusing on the most contrast or something like that, you can go in there and choose the person and say focus priority on this face, and it'll keep track of that face, which is very convenient.
Not to be repetitive, but what a time to be alive.
Yeah, no kidding. Autofocus tech has come so far, and if I'm not mistaken, the R1 even has modes like you can say, oh, I'm shooting soccer or I'm shooting volleyball, or it's still kind of in development, if I'm not mistaken. The press event that Canon hosted, I guess there was only like 2 sports or something like that were loaded, but with promise of more to come. So it's got autofocus that is geared towards specific sporting events so that you can track your subjects better. That's That's
Yes.
pretty impressive.
And it also, you can pick people, animals, or cars. So if you're the event that I was at, we were doing, I wasn't doing it, but I was photographing drift racing. I wish I was doing it. That would have been fun. That would have been terrible though. But I was photographing the drift racing, not doing the drift racing. And it was, you have it set.
Sounds like either one would be fun.
I know. I was like, can I? And of course not. But it was super fun. You have it set to vehicle AF priority, and it's like I said, it almost feels like you're cheating, just because I remember like not long ago where you had to do a lot more in terms of where you wanted your point to be, your focusing, and now it's the cameras become so smart that it leaves you more space to be creative, which I really appreciate. So you can, the way that I've always felt is that when I get a new camera or new lens or whatever, you use it until you don't have to think about using it. And then when you don't have to think about it, like you're that comfortable, then you can just be creative. And
that's when magic happens.
Yeah, that's when magic happens. That's when you just do it's time, you're ready to just create. And I love that. And these are the way that these, as they're coming out, it's making it easier and easier to be creative. So it's stuff like that. So that's the R1, and it's going to be around $6,299, I believe, list price.
Okay, so comparable to like the Z9 from Nikon and the A1 from Sony.
I think so.
Pretty
Yeah,
similar.
but it's also a lot less than past top of the line bodies, and so that was something that I was happy about in terms of the pricing. It's for what it offers. It's great. There's another thing it does. It reses up the file. So do I have to break it down somewhere? No.
I think I have. I know which feature you're talking about, and it does it in camera, so that you're.
Take the camera image in camera, and then you can res it up, and it takes the information that's there and intelligently makes an extremely larger file if you needed it. So that's something that I haven't been able to play with yet, but I am highly interested in it. I mentioned that I like to print large images, so there is that is available in the body. A lot of the information that we got, and some people were like, okay, well, it's the top of the line and it's 24.2 megapixels. Why isn't it higher megapixels? This camera, there's a couple different reasonings for it, and of course, and this is all going to be coming from Kelly right now. But for the people that we've worked with and my customers, this is a highly, sports action kind of camera. And if you have a really large file, it takes a lot longer.
Slows everything down.
Yeah, it slows everything down. You got to get the files out, news, network, anything like that. You got to get them out as soon as possible. And so we felt that, or I feel that it's not necessary with that body, especially with the quality that's coming out of it. And then you get into it, and the larger pixels on the sensor are actually lower noise and a clean file. So when you want to get super geeky like that, there is that too. So
and honestly, 24 megapixels is plenty of resolution. In video terms, that's 6K. That is a nice high resolution image. You can do some cropping. I mean, when I was going through tech school in the military, we were shooting on Nikon D1Hs that had 2.94 megapixels. I mean, we've come a long way since there, and then I think a lot of modern shooters are a little spoiled.
Spoiled, for sure. I don't want to date myself too much, but I learned on a big shoulder-mounted tape recording camera where you had to every second of video
equivalent.
Every second of video you shoot is a second you have to sit at the computer and wait for it to capture.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, 24 megapixels is, I would not consider that low resolution. I mean, maybe by today's standards, but if you're shooting sports, if you're shooting news, especially, I remember talking to a White House photographer, and they actually shot JPEG specifically because they didn't have time to edit, let alone deal with the file size of a raw image. So they would just shoot JPEG and send those off. You got to nail your exposure, nail your framing, nail everything in camera. But if you can send it off right away, quickly, that matters far more in news gathering than, megapixels. And exactly. With today's tools like Photo AI from Topaz and such, you can always upres later. And they do a surprisingly good job of it. So I would definitely agree with you that. Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of people are photographing in JPEG because it is important. You've got to get that file. You got to be the first to get that image, out. And then in sports, they're not making like gigantic print. You can make a gigantic print actually off the 24 megapixel. I've done it a million times. So it's not low res at all, but that's just something that I see sometimes. And then it's just.
And in sports, those larger photo sites with cleaner images at higher ISOs, it can often matter way, way more than, high resolution.
As well as FPS.
Make a difference.
Yeah. We're starting to run a little short on time. We're at the hour mark recording. I want to make sure that we're not taking too much of your time. I do want to hit real quick on the C400 because I was personally impressed by that. I was at Cinegear. When was that? A month or so ago.
June.
And it was, so full disclosure, I'm a Sony shooter. I know, evil. But one thing that I've always loved about my FX3 is the fact that it's got the dual native ISO, being able to shoot at ISO 800 and 12,800. And there's a little bit more noise at 12,800, but it's still completely usable. And so when I heard that the C400 had that same sort of dual native ISO and the same exact high native ISO of 12,800, but now with a 6K sensor, and being able to shoot 6K video, that I was like, what kind of trickery is this? What are they doing? There's no way that
base ISO. There's three base.
Oh, ISO. 3 base.
800, 3,200, and 12,800. The 6.
I'm an ISO junkie, so I must have just heard the top one and like, okay, we gotta check this out. But no, I cranked up the ND, closed down the iris, and bumped up all the way to 12,800 because Cinegear is held outdoors, so I really had to crank that ND to be able to actually use ISO 12,800. But then punched in, found the punch in button and pixel peeped and like, oh no, that's actually really clean.
Yeah.
So
it does look
really impressed with that.
I'm looking forward to testing it out myself, but from what I've seen, yeah, it's totally workable, and the noise that does come in tends to be clean looking. Like it doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, it's the triple base ISO with the 3, and then you also have an option for auto inside of there, so it can automatically go from 800 to 3,200 to 12,800 as you're going, and skip between those 3 with the 6K sensor, and it's 6K up to 60p 12-bit in cinema raw light.
Yeah, and that I could see that middle ISO being really handy, because I know with mine, once I get to about ISO 3,200, it's actually noisier than 12,800. So it's easier. It actually looks better to bump all the way up to 12,800 and ND it back down.
Oh, interesting.
So if there was a middle ISO in there, that actually makes that middle range much more usable. So
I think so. I think 3,200 is a popular one. You don't necessarily need to go to 12,800. So.
Well, I've shot some recent projects literally using Moonlight as my key, nice. Where I was bumping all the way up, not just 12,800, but 64,000 ISO. And so, yeah, I'm an ISO junkie. Hi, my name's Sam Morris. I'm an ISO.
Well, we should get your hands on this camera as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think we did. I did talk to Paul about that a little bit. But it's a cool camera, and especially paired with lenses like I've been playing with the Argus lenses from Laowa. They might actually be willing to send us a couple for the DC shoot off, but they're T1.0 lenses. So you pair that with that crazy ISO capability, and that's what lets you shoot in moonlight. And it actually you end up having to make sure that you don't overdo it, because then it starts to look like you shot day for night, even though you were actually shooting night for night. So no, exciting stuff from Canon, exciting stuff from iKan, those PoE lights, the moving pedestal tracking. As Tyler so eloquently put, it's a good time to be alive.
The virtual production stuff, especially for people who can't afford a giant Disney, whatever the hell they call that thing that they shoot all their stuff on now. But
yeah, the choice between volume wall or green screen, with green screen you can do everything. You just don't get what you see; it's what you get. You have to do a lot more previs, but the doors are opening up, just kind of like the Canon 5D Mark II opened up all the doors for people, trying to create content. VR is definitely opening up a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's democratizing the special effects and the crazy locations and all that sort of stuff. Really cool stuff. Before we wrap up, any parting comments? Anything you want to tell the students that are coming to the workshop in a couple weeks?
Like I said before, if there's any gear that you see on the iCanCorp.com website, you could send a message to Sam or the organizers. I'll see what I can get my hands on. And Sam, talk to me offline what you need for the live stream.
Absolutely, will do. What about you, Kelly?
No, really, we're going to be there with multiple cameras, slew of lenses, the cards. So we'll have it all kind of ready to go. If there's anything else, third party or lighting or anything else that you don't, that Canon doesn't make, that you want to use, just make sure you bring it so that you're ready to go. But yeah, same thing. If there's anything really specific, that you want, I'll see if we're already bringing it, or if not, if I can get my hands on it.
Very cool. No, it's looking like it's going to be a fantastic workshop as usual. We couldn't do it without our sponsors. We'll hopefully get Adobe in on the next episode. Maybe even talk to some previous winners of the workshop. For those who don't know, we usually have some sort of prize for the first place video winner. I don't know what that is this year, but it's usually pretty nice.
And usually for more than just one category, there's 3 or 4.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Usually they elaborate.
Right. So, I mean, it's all about the learning and such, but it's always nice to have a little extra incentive to do well. Well, I think that's about all we've got for this episode. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much, Brian, for being part of this episode and for supporting the workshop, and to the companies as well for supporting us all these years. Thanks, Tyler, for taking time out of the day. I know you didn't have a huge speaking part this episode, but always appreciate your help putting this on.
Comedic levity. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Well, and until next time, keep making epic stuff, shoot cool imagery, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.